Gather round, dads, it's time for a tale. Hand me a book and a warm pint of ale. Let's discuss writing and the literary gods with Dan Roberts on the Dadlit Pod.
Welcome to the Dadlit Pod, the literary podcast for people who definitely have to drop their kids off in order to record a podcast. It's like my guest, Alexander Robb, who's kindly joining me before bedtime where he is. Alexander Robb is the author of There Will Be Thousands, Everfont, and his new book, The Land of the Ill-Imagined. He is from Utah and he has three kids and he loves all things nerd. Well, thank you, Alexander.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. Tell me about your love for all things nerd. What got you started on loving nerd things? Because I can tell you what it was for me.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what started you on it. For me, it was my dad and my uncle. My uncle was a huge video gamer, and my dad loved to tinker with computers. So we always had computers growing up. He loved Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, and he actually
Mm.
loved Studio Ghibli way back in like the 90s. He had a friend from Japan when he was growing up who introduced him to Ghibli movies, and that's how he kind of got invested in those. So I grew up with Ghibli, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and then when I was older, I taught myself how to read, and I just fell in love with reading, and that kind of has built the foundation for my love for all things nerd. So
Wait, what is this? You taught yourself how to read?
yeah, I my dad. So when I was, I want to say 5 years old, just barely getting into kindergarten, didn't really know how to read at that point. But we were at my uncle's house. My cousin was playing Pokemon Silver, and I was like, Dad, I want to get that game. And he said, You can learn, you can, once you learn how to read, you can play that game, but it won't be for another like 4 or 5 years. And so I was like, I'm going to
Yes.
show you. And so I taught myself how to read chapter books over the next 6 months. So by 5.5, I was reading. I want to say at like a sixth grade reading level, and then by the time, yeah, so he was like, "Holy crap!" And so he bought me a Game Boy and Pokemon Ruby shortly thereafter.
Oh, nice. So there you go, folks. Teach your kids to read by offering them the gift of Pokemon. And my daughter is actually going through something very similar. Um, the near constant reading culture in my house. My wife either being working because she's works a lot because she's a professor of public health, or me reading you know books that come in, or working and writing books, has convinced her that reading is quite fundamental. And so her new thing was that she saw me writing um, notes for a novel I'm working on. And she was like, "What are you writing?" And then I said, "I'm writing notes for the book I'm planning." And she goes, "Oh, I want to do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, sweetie, but you don't know what the words are."
Yep.
And then she grabbed the notepad and proceeded to replicate the letters of everything she saw in the room. So I saw it on their Netflix, protein. She was clearly looking at the back of a nutritional thing because she had protein and the different vitamins written down the thing. And I was like, well, there you go. Practicing your letters. Great.
That's one way, whatever it takes, right, to get them to.
Whatever it takes to inspire it. Yeah. And I think being a nerd definitely does that.
Yeah.
I was originally a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters nerd because, of course, I was 85. So that was the cusp of my nerddom. And my mother likes to talk a lot about Power Rangers, but of course I was born well before Power Rangers. Power Rangers was my brother who was 5 years younger than me. So Power Rangers didn't have the appeal or the effect that it had for my younger brother. So
Um, quite a few things like that for me as well. I'm about I think a decade behind you, so I was
yeah,
never really into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was never into Power Rangers, but it was like the cusp. I think Pokemon was like my big thing. Yu-Gi-Oh!
yep.
Was pretty big when I was growing up as well, and Cartoon Network was pretty big, and so all of the cartoons that were on there, I was a pretty big fan of as well.
Yes, you, I think, were in my second brother's sort of block, right?
Yeah,
And I think these blocks tend to have been more effective on us and had more meaning because we didn't have the internet, right?
yeah,
So it wasn't just us. There was a limit of how much we were exposed to, and how much we had available to us, and therefore, because that was all we had, uh, it became ubiquitous to us. And then the internet came along and ruined just everything.
yeah. Well, it's been really interesting to see because like back 50s, 60s, 70s there weren't that many TV channels, and as more
No,
TV
no, it's
channels were introduced, you actually have like this fractioning of the culture because it gets wider and wider and wider. And then
yeah.
when I was a kid, Harry Potter was the big thing, and it was, I
Oh
think, in
yeah.
my opinion, yeah, it's the last big cultural touchstone that pretty much everybody around the world knew about, and
Yes.
we haven't really had anything like it since. I think that you could maybe make an argument for Marvel and maybe for Game of Thrones, but nothing has been as big as
No, even those two things because they didn't capture children's attention, right? They
yeah,
didn't like they didn't grip or occupy children's attentions quite like Harry Potter did. And
yeah,
because obviously in the fantasy realm, uh fantasy's been very influential for a lot of dad-led authors.
yeah.
I mean, I never read Lord of the Rings. I still haven't read it all the way through. But obviously there's an entire what 60 or 70 year block of people who it occupies part of their brain, right? I mean, it fundamentally occupies like a part of them. And I'm trying to think of something else. The other side, of course, is C.S. Lewis, which everyone in the dad lit community is quite enamored with C.S.
Yeah.
Lewis. And, it makes you realize everyone was really sad. It's- before before there were more than four channels and things
Yeah.
existed for kids, right?
No, exactly. And well,
Yes.
I don't know if sad is the word I would use, but probably melancholy, particularly during C.S. Lewis and Tolkien's time, because
Oh
they had
yeah.
just gone to war, came back, and all of their friends had pretty much perished over in Europe. They're from England.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was their homeland that was being ravaged, but in the U.S., same thing. Is there was just this general feeling of melancholy. But I think that's what produces such great writers in C.S. Lewis and Tolkien is that
Yeah.
they'd seen the worst of what had occurred back then that allowed them to channel what was good.
Yeah, and I think about us being on the other side. Um, and I think there's a reason why, for example, books like The Red Badge of Courage or Westerns or sort of Johnny Tremaine or Cowboys and Indians or eventually we have The Wizard of Oz, right? But even then, from a literary standpoint and from like just a dominant literary standpoint, for the latter half of the 19th and early part of the 20th century, it was Westerns and patriotic and Civil War things and Civil War books, which is interesting. And I think has had a lasting effect on us as a society. And I think our early embracing of particularly the media of film, right? And
Yeah.
the
Like the
and
John Waynes, the later
oh
Clint
yeah,
Eastwood.
yeah, yeah. I mean uh the just ubiquitous nature of film in America after 1935, and film as a method or as a almost the standard bearer for communication in the United States. It it created a situation where where it would dominate our imaginations more so than um,
Literature.
Tolkien or C.S. Lewis. Yeah, right. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. And even now, like that is the case where movies and I really think video games have become more dominant at this point rather
Yeah,
than movies. But books really form the foundation of all entertainment because pretty much everything stems from them. I mean, you have The Witcher, which was a book series adapted into video games.
yeah,
Lord of the Rings. Star Wars started as a movie franchise. It still is, but it has many, many books that people
yeah,
have loved over the years. And a lot of ideas in Hollywood come from books first, and then they adapt them, and that's when it gets out to the general public. And so,
yeah,
I, it's interesting to look at the history of entertainment where it started out as literature and now has become entertainment has become more of a visual medium than anything.
yeah. So this is, of course, what you're competing against.
Yep. I think it was the CEO of Spotify who said we're not competing against other entertainment apps. We're not competing against YouTube. We're not competing against video games. We're competing against silence. And
Yes.
I think that's exactly what it is. Whenever you make a movie, whenever you write a book, you're competing for people's attention. You're competing against the quiet. So
Yeah.
it's I am competing against movies. I'm competing against the quiet as well, essentially. So
So
it's a
so
tall order.
it is a tall order, and I'm trying to do it too. So I can empathize with competing against the quiet. So you're tackling fantasy, which is a genre.
Yeah.
Some would argue that it's wide open, right? That it's
Mhm.
that I mean, in fantasy, you can do anything. You can conceptualize anything, except that I think fantasy suffers from a derivative challenge, right? Where
Yeah.
now you cannot write anything in fantasy without being compared to what came before in fantasy. And the way to break out is to have original ideas that at the same time hearken to mainstays of fantasy. And that's what I think it's the land of the ill-imagined, correct? That's
Yep.
what I think you were going for in the land of the ill-imagined. So tell the dad literati about your new book that's coming out, The Land of the
Awesome.
Ill-Imagined.
Yeah, it came out today. I provided you with an advanced reading copy, so you've read a little bit of it.
Yeah,
And the premise is that it's a land where unspoken thoughts and desires live, and they have thoughts and desires of their own. The main character, Pyrrhus, wakes up in the land of the ill-imagined, and he's quickly told he's nothing more than a dream, nothing more than a thought in somebody else's head. And so he's pretty desperate for purpose, and so he tries to figure out kind of what's going on in the land of the ill-imagined. And as a result, he joins with the censors. They're kind of a police force. They hunt down villainous thoughtlings. Because in the land of the imagined, you can receive one of four designations. In this first book, only three matter. It's a hero, which is kind of like everybody has like a hero of their own story. Like if you create a story, you have a hero in it. You have neutrals; these are kind of like the side characters that are neither good or bad. And then you have villains. And the
Mhm.
villains are not allowed to roam around because they will cause havoc and chaos. And so they are put into what are called villain crystals and then locked away in a vault until they are either created, they fade, or until the end of time.
Mhm.
And so,
And and so when you conceive of, I'm just reminded of a scene where a guy eats a donut made of flesh. Eats a flesh donut. And I thought that's quite ill-imagined.
yeah.
And I also thought it was really funny and I liked it. So what are you trying to, what would you say is the message or the theme of the land of the ill-imagined? What are you using fantasy to capture about the human experience when you wrote it?
I am a huge fan of mankind is in charge of his own destiny. And
Hmm.
so Thoughlings, they're created by somebody with a very specific purpose. The character that you described, Paddy Patrick in the story, he runs a store where he makes pastries out of meat. I actually had
Yes.
one reader. She messaged me. She was like, "How does that work? Like, what is the functional application of getting this meat to become bread?" And I had to be like, "Look, I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
it's
you're in the land of the ill-imagined, lady. I don't know what to
yep,
tell you. No,
exactly." And
rather hilariously, I made Cornish pastries for my wife, which are which are meat pies, basically. Yeah.
yeah, no, these are similar, but they're full bread. And when Pyrus walks in, I think he describes the establishment as having kind of like a salty, almost weird, meaty smell. Um, but but Paddy Patrick kind of explains to Pyrus, he's like, yeah, we all come with our own rules. We all have our
Yeah.
own stories, like our memories that we haven't lived, essentially, and so our fate is predetermined. And um, throughout the series, it kind of gets into this a little in book one, and then it expounds in books two, three, four, and five, which is what I have planned. I have book two completely written. Book three I've started, and book four and five I obviously need to write. But the overall theme is: do we get to choose who we want to be? Because in this world, in our reality, everybody is born with a specific set of advantages and disadvantages. Some people have more disadvantages than advantages. Some people have more advantages than disadvantages. And even if you are born with disadvantages, does that determine where you will be your entire life? Do you have to
Mhm.
stay in the gutter if you're born in the gutter? Do you have to stay rich if you're born rich? And that's the theme of this series overall is you can choose who you want to be.
So to that extent, the trajectory of your characters is almost this vision where um, where regardless of your limitations, you inside yourself have a spark that is headed towards that you can light and direct as you please. What made you think that that was a thing that really needed to get said? Is it because
Um,
you're a dad? Is it because you yourself had this experience? What gets to the bottom of that as the idea?
yeah, of course. It's a message I grew up with. One of my
Mhm.
favorite films, The Iron Giant. the Iron Giant, saying,
Yes.
I'm not a gun," and Hogarth telling him, "You are who you choose to be." And then I also really love Kung Fu Panda too. I don't know if you've seen that film,
I
but
haven't. No.
it's got a great message where at the end, Poe, the main character, is talking to another character, and she tells him essentially, she's like, "You may not have had such a happy beginning, but that doesn't determine who you are."
Hmm.
And I think everybody has this longing for, who am I? Where am I going? Where am I going to end up? Do I have control over my life? And these films are, and other books that carry the same message. They're powerful messages that say you can do it. You're in charge of your own life. When I was 17, I attempted to take my own life, and I ended up in a rehab center. And
Oh
it was
no, I'm
there.
sorry.
Yeah, it's I can look back, and the way I coped is I laugh at it now. I was kind of a dumb kid. And life wasn't great, but there in that rehab center, I really learned that I get to choose who I want to be. And
Hmm.
so I want to kind of share that message with other people, is that no matter how bad things get, you can always choose the good. You can choose to be good if you want to, or you can choose to give up. And I don't recommend that. I think it's the wrong option, but it is a
Hmm.
option.
Well, that's a very meaningful message to want to share. I think that fundamentally, particularly for young men, right? I think this is sort of a thing that we've all come to learn is rather standard. That the experience of being young and feeling despair and loneliness and just not knowing that like high school's just high school and that time is just that time. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Uh, and it's so hard when you're that young person to see beyond that because of course you have no you have no cognitive ability to see past it, right?
Yeah.
The world just seems like a brick wall in front of you. And I think that doesn't get appreciated enough about particularly the experiences of young men, uh, especially in America, where I think we've had sort of a falling off of opportunity to find areas where young men can excel at being young men. It's one of the reasons why I think sports is so important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't
Well,
know
in
what it.
sports, oh, sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, well, what it was you what was your experience in working your way out of that and feeling just and getting to a point where you just were just like, oh, this isn't the end. Like there are a million things that I can do.
It's been quite a process. So I don't think I was in when I was in rehab, I really took the time to be like, okay, like I'm accountable for my actions. No matter
Hmm.
what happens in my life, wherever I end up, wherever I am buried at the end of my life, I will be buried there because of my own choices.
Yeah.
And so I kind of started with that foundation. And even though I had the head knowledge for that, it took a long time for me to develop heart knowledge of that, is what I like to
Hmm.
say is you can know something and not feel it. And so I left the rehab center, and then turned to God. I'm a religious man. I served a
Hmm.
mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and
Hmm.
improved on the lessons that I learned in rehab there. And then I got married, and continued to grow. I still still had some pretty severe character defects, but my wife has the patience of a saint. She's been so wonderful to me and has helped me to kind of come into myself as an adult man. And
Hmm.
I think the moment I really kind of realized was this year, actually, when I the lesson was kind of complete, is I signed a contract for this book, Land of the Imagined, and it was supposed to be released in June. And I signed the contract last year, and it was supposed to be released in June of this year. And in April, they sent out a message and they were like, we are canceling all future contracts. If your book has not been released, we're canceling it. And I had been through editing and proofreading and line edits, and so I reached out to them. I was like, listen, everything on this book is done. We just need cover art. We just need the audiobook. If I have to, I will pay for those. But I really
Yeah,
feel like this book will do well. Will you please push it out? And we were in talks for about a week, maybe 2 weeks, and they went, all right, we will push this out. We're gonna delay it a little bit, but we will push this out. But
yeah,
those 2 weeks when we were in talks, I was so mad at God, because I was like, I feel like you brought me here, like you've done all these things for me in my life, and now you're yanking it away. And I realized in that moment, I was like, and I think this is kind of the lesson God wanted me to learn, is nobody's gonna come save you. A publisher's not gonna save you if you're not willing to put in the effort. Nobody is going to care about this book more than you. And as an
hmm
extension of that lesson, nobody's going to care about you more than you care about yourself. And so
yeah.
if you want to succeed, you have to care. You have to be willing to put in the effort, and you have to be fully accountable. It was at that moment where I was like, I'm not going to let anybody stop me. It sucks that it took me 29 years to learn this lesson. I wish I'd learned it sooner, but I've learned it, and now if I fully have the heart knowledge that if I succeed, it will be because of me. If I fail, it will be because of me.
I think it's writing and trying to put something out there is so impossibly hard. It's so impossibly hard. I think that the lesson of the person that cares about this the most is you is the thing that I've learned myself most of all in this process is that you're the one who put the work in. You're the one who cares about it. Um, the greatest advocate is always going to be you. Uh, and that is tough. That is very tough. And I'm glad that you made it happen. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I think it can be a little bit depressing when you first come to that realization that nobody cares, nobody will care about this thing. But I've realized it's such a positive thing, because it's like, nobody's holding me back.
Yeah.
You can make it happen. And thankfully, my publishers were willing to work with me a little bit, and so we were able to get here. And so far, the book is doing better than I thought it would be. It's reviewed really well, and so
Well,
I'm
that's great.
pretty proud of what we have.
As you should be, as you should be. You know, it is a brutal gauntlet, as I'm sure you've already noticed.
Yep. This is my fourth book that I published. It is a gauntlet every time.
It is a gauntlet every time. So I'm very interested in the LDS aspect of this.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting because the Dadlit pod has found a lot of Texas authors who are dads. We have also found a lot of LDS authors who are dads. This is not even discounting all the LDS authors who are moms who who seem to to dominate the YA field of publishing. I mean, I'm thinking of the uh, the Hunger Games series.
Is she LDS? I
I
thought,
believe she's LDS.
let me look that up. Hold on.
Okay, you look it up. You look it up. But I believe there are a lot of women who are LDS, very successful authors. And I'm finding there are a lot of dad authors that are also LDS. Do you think it's unique to the LDS sort of cultural experience, because I think the LDS cultural experience with emphasis on family, with emphasis on personal responsibility, and with sort of it's a very strong aspirational faith. Do
Yeah.
you think that that influenced it?
Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what drives so many members of the church to fantasy. But I do know that the values of in the theology are there's a large emphasis on accountability. There's a large emphasis on
Yes.
industry. And I think it was John Calvin in Christianity who first put forth the idea that your job or your career was not drudgery, it wasn't a punishment, but that
Yeah.
everyone has their role to fulfill. And I think the in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we adhere to that idea, that tenet. If I'm going to be an author, I am going to be the best author I can to give glory to God. If I'm going to be
Hmm.
a sports star, same thing. If I'm going to be an electrician, a plumber, whatever you are doing, you are going to be the best you can be for God and for your family. And the LDS theology really hammers that home is that you are accountable and that you have
Hmm.
agency. That could be why. Um, as for the fantasy aspect, I don't know. I don't know why so many
Oh, I
LDS
wasn't
people.
even talking about the fantasy aspect. I was
Oh,
talking about, there are LDS women who have written thrillers. There are
yeah,
LDS sci-fi writers. A lot of people in the LDS community write self-help, for example. It's interesting the breadth and the amount of writing that that in contemporary publishing that's having a lot of success that comes from LDS authors. But it's not necessarily on themes related to LDS, right? Like I don't think the
yeah.
hunger, yeah. I again, you know,
Well, and so I looked it up. She's not LDS, but I almost guarantee you're thinking of Stephanie Meyer, who wrote Twilight.
yes, that's who
Um,
I'm thinking about. Sorry, my apologies.
oh, no
Yes,
worries. I wish we could claim Suzanne Collins. She is a fantastic writer. Stephanie Meyer is great as well. I actually read the Twilight books. They are very teenage girl-ish.
yes,
But she is also very good. She's very talented at what she does. Orson Scott Card is another one,
yes.
and Brandon Sanderson as well.
Yeah, I was going to say Brandon Sanderson as well. Yes, I think that's interesting. And what's in the water out there in Utah? You guys aren't drinking out of the Salt Lake. I'm told that that's not good for you.
Oh yeah, we have a lake that's literally just an hour south called the Utah Lake,
Yeah.
full of algae. It's so nasty. It's probably the air that thing puts off, makes people in Utah really weird, combined with the high altitude, in the Rocky Mountains.
Utah, though, is so beautiful. I've driven across it. I haven't spent a lot of time there. But I've driven the entire sort of diagonal of the state to get from Wyoming to northern
Nevada.
Arizona. Yeah, and
Oh,
Nevada.
Arizona.
Yeah, yeah. I think you go into a corner of Arizona, right?
Yeah, so I think Arizona is directly below us.
Yes.
And then we've got Nevada to the left, and
Yeah.
I think New Mexico to the southwest or
Mhm.
southeast. I always
Yes.
forget about New Mexico. The only noteworthy thing about that state is that Breaking Bad took place there. But yeah, it's a very beautiful state. And I love living here. I Cost of living has gone up, but uh,
Oh,
hoping to make
really?
it big hoping to make it big as an author to stay here. But
So what then is the sort of trajectory do you think that fantasy is going to head in the direction of. Because you mentioned Brandon Sanderson and Stephanie Meyer, and I think Stephanie Meyer and Brandon Sanderson are perfect examples of the two directions that fantasy has gone. And I was recently reading my daughter Harry Potter, and it dawned on me that there's like a that there was a divergence almost in the 90s between the George R. R. Martin wing, which was hard, the hard sort of masculine oriented fantasy versus the Stephanie Meyer wing, which is, vampire, you know, vampire action.
She was kind of a prelude to romantasy,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
almost definitely. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
massively popular.
Yes.
I'm not sure. So Sarah J. Maas is actually way more popular than Brandon Sanderson. Makes a lot more money.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Now
but
my wife is dressing as High Fae for
oh,
Halloween, so I'm aware of this.
I read her Throne of Glass series and the first three books in that, and then I quit after that because one of my cardinal sins for any fiction ever is I hate when you introduce a love interest and then for really dumb reasons they end up breaking up or whatever, and you constantly cycle through new love interests. And she
Yes.
does that in Throne of Glass, and I finally got she does it twice, and the first time she does, I was like, okay, I can handle this. And then the second time she did, I was
Yeah.
like, I'm out. Because I'm a diehard romantic. But I think that I think that fantasy will probably move forward more into the romantasy genre. Not because what Brandon Sanderson is doing isn't good, but because publishing houses look at romantasy and they see it as this sells really well.
Yeah.
The market is dominated right now by it, and it's easy to push out. And so I
Yeah.
think that we will see a continual flood of romantasy for another period of between a year or 5 years. And where it goes after that, I'm really not sure. I think that we may see a resurgence of Western fantasy, like those Westerns that you were talking about earlier. I think you could see a resurgence of hard sci-fi.
Hmm.
I think you could see maybe kind of like a pullback into Brandon Sanderson's fantasy. And the thing about these genres is that they continually exist um, even now. Like even now, while
Yeah.
romantasy dominates, we still have westerns, we still have sci-fi books, and good sci-fi books and good westerns, and we still have good fantasy. It all depends on what the zeitgeist really hungers for, and for whatever
Yeah.
reason, right now it demands romantasy. I personally hope there will be a hunger for Land of the Ill-Imagined, because it is quite a unique idea and story. And I don't know if anybody else really has anything comparable to it out there.
Yeah. From the fantasy element, because I've thought about this because the genres that I found that I actually quite like to write are crime and science fiction and horror. And horror, depending on how you write it, is in and of itself a fantasy genre, right? It
Yeah.
verges in. Um, and I've thought about I wanted to write a fairy tale, a horror fairy tale, and I'm working on it right now. Um, and it's a thing where I think doing something fresh and having a fresh idea like you have with Land of the Ill-Imagined is very valuable because it opens up a new door, right? And I was thinking about this with Harry Potter. Harry Potter opened up a very weird new door. When you go back and you read that book and you're like, this is really, really odd. It's like a combination of Roald Dahl and sort of um, not even, it's like a combination of Roald Dahl and The Wizard of Oz to me, but very British, right?
Yeah.
With sort of a British fantasy mythos. But the voice is very Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I think it's interesting in that way because that was sort of a break. That's like breaking off into a new realm. That's doing something original. And and fantasy, I think, really benefits when there's a weird break like that. And I'm trying to think of what the other weird breaks have been. Uh,
Uh, Edgar Rice Burroughs is not technically fantasy, but he was probably a big one. He
mhm.
was John Carter of Mars back, I think, in the 20s or the 30s. And then
Yep.
Tolkien was huge because Sword and Sorcery had existed before then, popularized by Robert E. Howard and Conan, I think.
Yep.
But Tolkien really showed publishers that it could be commercially viable. And so
Yep.
you had a lot of copycats after that. Robert Jordan started as a derivative. He wrote Wheel of Time as derivative of Tolkien. And then around the 90s, I want to say around the late 80s, 90s, there was what was the Scholastic boom. And the Scholastic boom, this is right before Harry Potter, was they were pumping out a
Yep.
ton of children's books, and everybody knew the ship was sinking, and so they were trying to get as much money as they could. And when J.K. Rowling submitted, the acquisitions editor initially thought it was going to be one of those Scholastic books where they were just going to try to
Yep.
get as much money out of it as possible. And it ended up not being that way. It ended up becoming the most successful book franchise in history, besides maybe the Bible.
Yep.
But I don't, I would like to be that emergence, that break. I think it's probably arrogant to say I would be.
Well, no, no,
Um,
no. I think there are trajectories, right? Like we
yeah,
aspire to sort of the trajectory. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Stephen Graham Jones. I've started reading lately.
I haven't heard of him. What does
He's
he write?
he writes Western horror. So
Okay.
basically his books are sort of horror books, but set in very like Western themes, with particularly a strong um, sort of Native American experiences as part of them. And I think that's like a super interesting because at heart it's a fantasy crossover, right? It's
Yeah.
horror and mythos, in Western mythos. Uh, and I think that sort of method of doing it is really interesting. And then Mr. Norrell and Jonathan Strange, or Jonathan Norrell and Mr. Strange. I always forget. That always seemed like that was going to be. Um, it was just like a break from the fantasy that I'd always read, and I thought that was really, really terrific as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's it's not exactly my genre, but I'm always interested in it because of its range and the way it builds on itself. So I'm excited
Yeah.
to see how the land of the ill imagined emerges within this.
Thank you. I'm pretty excited as well. And kind of to your point that fantasy has a wide range. I think the best fantasy books include a little bit of everything. They have adventure, they
Hmm.
have a little bit of horror, they have romance. Using Harry Potter as an example, it has pretty much all of those
Everything.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got
And
everything.
there's so many things she did so well about those books that nobody else has really replicated since then. And
Yeah.
I hope that I could maybe do it. I That's again maybe a little arrogant to say with a Land of the Imagined, but Land of the Imagined does have a little bit of romance. It has
Yeah,
adventure. It has that mystery. One thing I did intentionally with Land of the Imagined is the main character wakes up and he doesn't have his memories.
yeah,
And so as he learns about the land, so too does the audience. It's a very easy way to mask exposition and info dumps. Because it
which
becomes,
are rather notorious in
yeah,
the
fantasy
uh,
genre.
yeah,
And that's what J.K. Rowling did with Harry Potter. Is Harry Potter doesn't not have his memories. He's grown up, but he has been
yeah,
removed from the world he was born into. And so as Harry learns about the world, so too does the audience. And that's what
yeah,
makes it so fun. It's also Harry Potter did something that makes it really like there's almost like a comfortable feeling when you're at Hogwarts because you
yeah.
feel like Hogwarts is home. And I'm
Well,
hoping
it's
that,
also teaching you, right? Like it
yeah.
teaches you along the way. As he's learning, you are also learning about society and about rules. Um, the one thing that's very funny that I've introduced my daughter to, and this is how you know that you have like the a 4-year-old who's living a very charmed life, is that it was inconceivable to her that the uncle and aunt would be mean. Just doesn't
Yeah.
understand. Wait, there are mean people? Why would they be mean? No one's ever
we
mean to anyone.
we
Uh,
showed we showed my son that first movie when he's sleeping under the
yeah,
cupboard and he was like, same thing. Why are they making him sleep under the
yeah.
stairs?
Why would?
Well,
Yeah, yeah,
they
because
just
they're
don't like him.
mean. Yeah, they don't like him.
Yeah.
What do you mean they don't like him?
Yeah.
And then, obviously, because Harry and Ron and Hermione get into trouble, my daughter's like, "Why aren't they doing what the adults say?" And then I'm like, I'm like, you never do what I say. You
I
know
was
why they're doing what they're not doing what
yeah.
the adults say. You don't do what I say. No, but those are the teachers, Daddy. The teachers are telling, and I'm like, wait, they don't go home? They stay at the school? Yes, sweetie, they stay at the school. What do you mean
Which
they
I found
stay at
out
the school?
later, that's a British thing. That's
Oh yeah,
common among
yeah.
British, and to be separated into houses is common.
Yes.
Um, and I This is a side tangent. I actually think that works to the mystique of Hogwarts because America, at least 20 years ago, and still probably today, was the largest consumer of entertainment.
Yeah.
In the world. Like we thrive off of entertainment. Now you can make an argument that China is a little as consumes more than we do now. But her separating the children into houses and having them stay throughout school added to the mystique of Harry Potter for an American audience because
Yeah, it was very
except
it was a foreign concept, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
um, except for
Yes.
private schools, we don't do that.
Yep. No, it's a great film and well, a great book series. I'm rediscovering it by reading it with my daughter and sort of appreciating it for the things that I didn't appreciate before, like the this sort of style that she writes it in. That it actually has incredibly strong voice. It has an interesting voice underlying it, where the narrator is very present, particularly in that first book, and is very fun. So, but
Yeah,
anyway, why don't you plug The Land of the Ill-Imagined? Where can people get it? Who's it from?
awesome. It is my publisher is Immortal Works. You can get it off of their website. You can get it off of Barnes and Noble, Amazon, pretty much anywhere that books are sold online. There will be a few local bookstores if you're in Utah that will carry it as well. It If you love stories about choice and choosing your own destiny and Also, that have a bit of whimsy. This is the book for you. There's a lot of references throughout the book. I don't know if you've gotten to that point, but there are chapter headings in each of the chapters that are sort of a welcome guide to the land of the imagined. One of the later ones, it says, "Don't trust vampires. It doesn't matter if they sparkle. It doesn't matter if they're religious. Don't trust them." And one of the main characters, his name is Bouncer. You find out later the place where he was imagined. It's called Blue Wall, and that is a very overt reference to Brian Jacques's Red Wall series. And there's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of heart in this book. It's written fairly well. And if you pick it up and you love fantasy, you will love this book.
Well, thank you, Alexander Robb. This is Alexander Robb, The Land of the Ill-Imagined. Get it online, or from, what's the publisher again? Immortal
Immortal
Words,
Works. Yeah.
or from Immortal Words. Thank you, Alexander, for joining me.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a good one.
Have a good one. This has been the Dadland Pod.
Our time together has come to an end. It's time to return to your wife, kids, and friends. It's time to pick up those books you forgot while you wait for the next Dad Lit